Imagine taking your canoe or your rubber raft down to the edge of a river. And you have your oars in place, and so you put your canoe into the river, and you deliberately turn it upstream and begin paddling. Hard. And we say to you, just turn it and let the stream carry you. And most humans say, that just seems lazy. They'll tell you that the reason that they point their canoe upstream is because others are doing it. In fact, almost everybody they know is doing it that way, because no one wants to be considered lazy. And that all of the trophies and accolades and monuments are given to those who are paddling upstream. There's this attitude in humanness that says, there is a struggle that I need to overcome, and this is the best way for me to go about it. And if I overcome the struggle, then I will be rewarded. We say, oh, just turn and go with the flow. And humans say, it's too lazy. I cannot do that. My mother paddled upstream. Her mother paddled upstream. It's just what our family does. We paddle upstream. And we say, but why? Why do you work so hard? Why do you work against the current? And humans say, because there are rewards, because people admire us, because there is virtue in it, because it is our strongest basis of comparison here. And I have heard that there are other, even greater rewards in heaven later. And we say, heaven's downstream. We say, that which you call heaven is the reason for the stream. It's the reason for the current. So we call this gathering the art of allowing, and it really takes some practice to learn the art of turning and going with the flow. And it takes letting go of those beliefs that there is value in struggle. Because there is not value in struggle. Struggle means that my focus in my human body is in opposition to the way Source sees it. When you have a thought that feels glorious to you, that means that your thought and the drum you're beating and the vibration that you've activated, and therefore your point of attraction, is in absolute alignment with the way the source energy part of you is seeing it. For example, when you look at someone and you see their positive aspects and you love them, the reason that that feeling of love is washing through you is because you are in absolute alignment with who you are. You're going with that flow. But when you see someone and you hate them, or you disapprove of them, or they disappoint you, or they embarrass you, or you are pushing against them for whatever reason, the reason that that feeling of embarrassment feels the way it does, or that feeling of anger or hatred feels the way it does, or that feeling of resentment or fear feels the way it does, is because you've activated within yourself a vibration that is so opposite of what Source is feeling in the same moment that you have set up vibrational discord. There is not one of you who is deliberately believing something that feels awful. You are not deliberately doing it. You have come to assumptions and beliefs, which are only thoughts that you keep thinking. Assumption, expectation, belief. You have come to them because you have given thought to it, usually by virtue of someone else's pronouncement of it to you. This is true, they say to you. And as you focus upon it, and therefore activate the vibration of it, and law of attraction, which always responds to your vibration, brings it to you, then you pronounce, yes, now I see from my own experience that this is true. And we want to say to you, your assumption made it true. But humans say, no, it was true. That's why I assumed it. It was true before I came to expect it. And we say, but it is your attention to it and the activation of the expectation within you that makes it your truth. Sort of a mind twister, isn't it? I saw something that was true and I didn't like it. But I didn't make it happen, Abraham. It was true before I saw it. And we say, but your attention to it will bring it to you. And then you will confirm the truth of it through your personal experience of it. So we are encouraging you to use a different criteria for that which you give your attention to. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say, how does my broader perspective see this? Because when you care how your broader perspective sees it, then you say, how does it feel? I'm going to try to guide my thoughts into alignment with the way Source sees it. So let's say you haven't been feeling good. You go to the doctor. He looks at you with his instruments that can see where you can't see. And he pronounces that you've got something really bad. He gives you the label. It scares the life right out of you. We're not kidding. And so you say, I'm having a fearful response to something that is real. And we say, you're having a fearful response to a thought that is contradictory to the way that Source sees it. What? The doctor has seen the evidence of my disease. Are you saying that Source is blind? Source cannot see the evidence of my disease? And we say, Source sees who you really are. The doctor's seeing who you have temporarily become. Source will not join you in that thought about sickness, and that's why you feel negative emotion. If Source joined you, there'd be no separation between you, and you would not feel the discord of that separation. So then you say, so wait, the doctor is seeing something that is real. You'll go that far with me. Yes, Abraham? And we say, yes. The doctor is seeing something that is real by your physical standards. You have a bump, a lump, a disease. You have a shadow. You have sickness in your body. It is a physical reality that Source refuses to see. Because Source is always looking. Now hear this. Remember that Source that was you before you were you? That banged around here with you in your physical experience and you gave birth to another rocket of desire? Source is there. So while you were in the process of getting sick, even though you did not know you were in the process of getting sick because you get so used to negative emotion you don't know what you're doing to yourself. During the process of you making yourself temporarily sick, each time you knew what you didn't want, you also knew what you did want, and Source went there. So as a result of everything that you've been living, the non-physical part of you became richer in terms of finances, healthier in terms of physicalness, better off in terms of everything, expanded in terms of everything. In other words, everything that you've been living has been causing the greater part of you the expansion, and that's where Source is. So when you beat the drum of not enough money, you've just separated yourself from the expanded version of you. And every single negative emotion you feel is because you're not keeping up with your expansion of you. Anytime that you are living the opposite of something, the counterpart of it, which is what you are really wanting, is born out of it. And that, friends, is causing an expansion of the universe, but it's also causing an expansion of you. And you've got to keep up with that. So now you're getting a sense of this current or stream that is flowing. It flowed before you got here. It flowed when you were an infant, but you've been adding to it through your interaction with life every day since. It's a raging current. So we offer infinite processes, never-ending spewer of processes. That's the definition of Abraham. The never-ending spewer of the process in an effort to explain to you that you're already worthy and that if you will just chill out, the stream will carry you to your heart's desire, to the fulfillment of all that you are. So as we're moving forward here today, we're going to show you in as many ways as we can, given what it is you want to talk about, how if you will just try to see it in a little bit different way, you will at least stop paddling upstream and the stream will begin to turn you. Esther's been pondering a lot of things that are happening on television, a couple of things that are happening in their own experience. And as she's been pondering these things, she's come to a very clear awareness that everybody doesn't see things the way she sees them. She's astonished that people cannot understand it the way she understands it and just do what she would do. It would solve everything today. So she put herself in her bed the other night and she was pondering something that she'd seen on television and sort of making an analogy of it with something that's been happening in their experience. And as she was going to sleep, she said, I want clarity about this. I want to be able to see this from a broader perspective. And as she slept, she dreamed, and when she awakened, she remembered this vivid dream. In her dream, she is standing on the back porch of what appeared to be where they were living. And she saw a bear cub coming out of the woods. And the bear cub looked distressed because it was dirty. It had obviously been rolling around. And as it came closer, she realized that it had a sort of halfway armament on it, sort of like the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. A sort of armament, a funny thing on its head and a funny thing over its upper torso. And it clearly did not want to have it on, but it could not seem to get it off. And Esther acknowledged in the dream that the reason it was so dirty is it had been rolling around, really working hard at getting the rest of it off. And as Esther saw this little bear, her heart just went out to it, and she is thinking to herself, how can I help you out of this situation? And so she began moving toward it, and she was looking for some sort of tool that she might use so that she could help this bear out of its dilemma. And Elsie, lovable cat, walked out of the house and onto the porch and saw the bear. Now, Elsie had a whole different interest in the bear. And Elsie began to approach the bear. And as Elsie began to approach the bear began to respond to this approach. And Esther could see something was going to happen between the bear and Elsie. And Esther now began feeling concern for her lovable cat. And so Esther began looking for something that she could use to make the bear go away. And she found some rather good-sized stones, which she is now tossing at the bear. And as she is tossing them at the bear, Elsie is sort of standing there trying to decide what to do next, and the bear is beginning to retreat. And now Kate, granddaughter Kate, comes out on the porch and says, Grandma, don't hit it. And then Esther awakened, full of incredible clarity. As the main character in this dream, as you are always the main character in your life, she had felt her moving about of perspective. She went from feeling strong and secure and capable and wanting to help this bear that clearly needed help, to being the defender of someone else and seeing the bear as the problem, not someone that she wanted to help. And in the midst of that, pure little Kate came out and saw grandmother as the problem. Grandmother's throwing rocks at the bear who Kate now wants to help get out of this predicament. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting how you interact with one another always from your selfish perspective? And somehow, in your complete understanding that it's all right for you to feel the way you feel, never understanding that it's all right for everybody else to feel the way they feel. And as long as you're looking through your selfish eyes, and you have no other point of view, you have to come around to understanding that there is no way out of dilemmas if your idea of a solution is getting someone else to give up their selfish nature and give in to yours. Your war in the Middle East will go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Accept it and let it be. You can't understand their points of view. You can't make them understand each other's points of view. You can't overlay your point of view. In other words, you have to understand that law of attraction is working it all out, and that the only way that you can be creatively influential in your own life experience is to affect your own vibration. If your idea of living a happy life is getting someone else to alter their behavior so that you can observe something different, then you've got all that coercion to do. Then you've got to convince them that they need to do something different in order for you to live a happy life. And friends, they are all, every single one of them, as selfishly oriented as you are. It has always been thus, and it always will be. So the answer to your living happily ever after is to mind your own business and tend to your own vibrational crack and let your undivided attention be upon how Source is seeing this situation, and understanding that Source is seeing it through the expanded version of life that you have given Source. In other words, Source has expanded because of you, and now you have no choice, if your desire is to be happy, other than to keep up with who you have become.